Hello everyone, this is rkhan, and today I'm going to talk about IMAP and DNS, and this is for ISA4200 Professor Green. So the topic of discussion for today's presentation is going to be IMAP, DNS, and then we'll jump on and talk about some of the best practices for IMAP and best practices for DNS. So here we'll talk about IMAP, what is IMAP, and how does IMAP works. So IMAP is basically, stands for Internet Message Access Protocol that allows users to access email from anything as long as you have the username and password. With IMAP, the email lives on the server and you have access to some basic information about every email in your inbox. If you use multiple computers, IMAP stands for Internet Message Access Protocol, and it's like a two-way street messages. Goes from the server to the client and back to the server to be synchronized with other computers. The great thing about IMAP is that even sent mail and mail has been organized in folders which use these two-way streets, so everything you do in one computer is reflected upon another computer, so everything is synchronized. Gmail accesses and stores all of your email from all of your email addresses, and this is synchronized across all computers and all your email clients. So anything you do in one computer is reflected on the other. Whether you are online or offline, you can access your email. And the other great thing is you just set up once and it automatically synchronizes from then on. So here we'll talk about DNS. What is DNS? How does domain name system works? How each request gets processed, and we'll talk about what is DOT, what purpose it serves by being placed at the end of every URL. So DNS stands for domain name systems, and it is indisputably one of the most and overlooked parts of the internet. In today's world, without DNS, the internet would collapse within seconds. It's important to know that computers make up the internet are set up in large networks that communicate with each other via underground or underwater placed wires. And they are identified using strings or numbers, also known as IP addresses. DNS is used to translate actual name into these numbers. It's also important to know how does the domain name system works. So an example is when you type www.yahoo.com, you only actually be looking for www.yahoo.com dot. The dot at the end represents the root of the internet namespace. It's important to know the importance of the dot that gets placed at the end. You can do it for the experiment. You can go out on the URL and type something, for example, Google, www.google.com, and you will notice once you process it, there's a dot that gets placed at the end of the entire address. So when you first search for www.yahoo.com, your internet browser and your operating system will first determine if they know what the IP address is already. It could be configured on your computer, or it could be in the memory, which is also called cache. In this process, the browser asks the operating system that they both don't know where the email, where www.yahoo.com is. In that case, the operating system is configured to ask a resolving name server for IP addresses. It does not know. The resolving name server is the workhorse of the DNS lookup. It is either configured manually or automatically within your operating system. So this is something you have to remember. Your operating system asks or run a query, the resolving name server for the address you're looking for. The resolving name server may or may not have this in the memory. The only thing that resolving name server should know is where to find the root name servers. The resolving name server then takes all of this information from the root name server, put it in its memory, and then goes directly to com TLB name server. When the resolving name server query the email, the URL address you're looking for, and knows which authoritative name server to use, it does that with the help of a domain registrar. When a domain is purchased, the registrar told which authoritative name server that domain should use. So in that case, the resolving name server then takes the response from the TLD name server, stores it in the memory, and then runs the query for the URL you're looking for. Name server at the point, the authoritative name server will say, hey, I know where that is. Tell your browser to go to, certain following IP addresses. Then, the resolving name server takes that information from the authoritative name server, puts it in the cache, and gets a reply from the operating system. The operating system then gives this to the browser, and the browser then takes that connection to the IP address requesting the web page for www.yahoo.com. This whole cycle takes less than a minute to process. So here we'll talk about some of the best practices we can take to secure IMAP. So the first one is restricting submission to distribution list and users. Restrict who can send email messages to an individual user or a distribution list. Restricting submission on a distribution list prevents non-trusted senders, such as unauthorized internet users, from sending mail to an internal-only distribution list. The next one is digitally sign and encrypt your email. This is very important. Attachments could include programs that start sending spam email messages to multiple users within your address list. That could, potentially cause a lot of trouble. The next one is port 993. Always use secure connection like port 993, which uses the TCP UDP protocol. The next one is dovcat configuration. Dovcat configuration should be configured always because it uses SSL and TLS. So here we'll talk about some of the best practices around DNS. The first one is ensure that default server options that secure the caches of all DNS servers against name population have not changed. Name population occurs when DNS queries responses contain non-authoritative or malicious data. So this is very important that you take care of that. The next one is allow only secure dynamic updates for all DNS zones. This is very important because this ensures that only authenticated user can submit DNS updates using a secure method, which helps prevent the IP addresses of trusted hosts from being hijacked by an attacker. The next one is only make available what must be available. This is also very important. One of the first things that organization can do is to ensure that only the information necessary for parties using the server is available on the server. The next one, the last, is primary server should be hidden. The server that hosts the master copy of any zone should be hidden primaries. That means that they only exist to serve that data to the secondary name server throughout the organization. They are not listed as name servers for any zone, and they are not accessible to any end user. So this is very important that you implement these practices. And that's all there is to it. Thank you everyone for listening.